Okay, so let's get to the third house. Hopefully you watched the video on the first and the second house. After the second house is the third house. The third house, after your value system and your belongings, the third house, it's communicating what about your value and your belongings and your personality. So the third house actually refers to communication. It refers to
what's your passion? Get it paid? What's your play? Is it play? Wanna play? How to play? I'm just playing.
Your neighbors. So it also has to do with short road trips. It's naturally ruled by Gemini. Gemini's ruling planet is Mercury. So everyone's familiar, whether they follow astrology or not, the Mercury retrograde. Oh my gosh, back up your computer system, your files. It also can affect your cars. That's because driving and movement pertains to the third house. So anything in the third house, it's going to show how they like to move. Do they like to move fast? Are they constantly wanting to roller skate, to skateboard? Do they love car trips? Do they hate car trips? Do they get along with their siblings? Do they have a lot of siblings? A lot of planets in the third house can show a lot of siblings, whether it is step siblings or biological siblings. Also with the third house, it has to do with lower education. So we're trying to stay on the topic of our children, and we really want to think about how to nurture them from babies up until maybe like they're 21, right? Because we're really hoping we can guide them and doing all the right things and they don't need us as much. So with the third house, it has to do with the elementary school and it has to do with high school. It's below college level because that's the opposite. That is ninth house stuff. And so it's lower education. With that in mind, remember I said the third house has a lot to do with the immediate environment. So this also has to do with their school environment. I have done natal chart readings on adults where I have seen that they were bullied in school, and they confirm this. And it can show where speech impediments are because, again, the third house is affiliated with Mercury and Gemini. So when we think of Gemini, they love to talk and they're all about ideas. My favorite example with Gemini is actually Kanye West. Like, have you ever seen an interview? He's just all over the place. That is Gemini. It's just thoughts, right? It's a little detached from emotion, but it's thoughts and it's communicating thoughts. So it will show up in the third house how your child communicates and takes information. So if your child has Mars in the third house, remember Mars, I love to use that example because it is an energy that affects us every single day because it's one of the personal planets. So Mars is all about energy and it's compulsive, it's not logical, it's action oriented, whether that's passive, running from a bear, or fighting the bear. That's another example I like to use because it spurs up our defense mechanisms, and some of us go into passive or we go into fight mode. So let me give you a really good example of a planet such as Mars in the third house and how it reflects the topics of the third house of communication, siblings, lower education, school, and immediate surroundings such as neighborhood. So say Mars is in the third house. The child could be argumentative or appear that way because they talk loud. When Mars is in the third house, they can talk so loud because Mars is just this high energy planet. And so that's one thing that can happen with Mars there. That's really a generalization on the third house. It's just really basic, which is like the best way to go when you're trying to learn them. For key points is the third house is communication, it's siblings, it's the learning style, and what's going on in school for them. And it also has to do with movement.